Radio Raheem at the post-fight for Scott Qigg and Oscar Valdez. Everything is happening so fast. They're bringing down the banner. Valdez is on his way to the hospital. Scott Qigg is getting his nose fixed. That's what kind of fight it was tonight. It was pouring down rain. It was dark, and the fighters went every round hardcore. We're about to check the post-fight and see what they have to say.
There's a lot of good things Oscar did as far as boxing is concerned, correct? But then again, you know, I mean, he'll sit in the pocket and he'll go to the body and he'll bang with the fighter but just understanding that you have to be able to, as a coach, dictate the situation. Yes, fight. In other words, he's got to be the one dictating the tempo in the ring as far as when to fight, when not to fight, when to box. It was evident. I mean, he made Scott Qigg miss a lot. But again, Scott Qigg, man, he's a warrior. Come on, and if anybody hasn't seen Scott Qigg fight before, he's gonna be on your ass from round number 1 to round number 12. So he's been in lots of wars, and he's used to this. So it doesn't surprise me that Scott fought this way.
Manny, what was going through your mind in the 5th round when it looked like Qigg had Valdez momentarily hurt? And do you think that moment happens without the weight advantage?
You know what? Maybe, because that's a lot of weight that you're carrying. Come on, it's just, I mean, when Oscar caught the guy, he stuttered Scott, but momentarily, and he came right back at him. And he caught him several times with, you know, to the head, to the body, and he took his punches very well, better than anyone else ever has. You know, I was asked this question: do you think Freddie, you know, and Scott Quigg's team did this on purpose? Do you think that it was deliberate, that they didn't make weight? Well, I don't know. I mean, who wants to give up 20% of their purse and not fight for a world title, right? I doubt that very much. What were the reasons why you know, Scott Qigg didn't make weight? I wish I knew. I wish I knew.
Fractured his foot a month ago.
I don't know. You're telling me this now. I mean, if he had a fractured foot, I don't think he'd be fighting.
For a fractured foot.
Yeah, he did very well for a fractured foot. I mean, I don't know if I can believe that or not. Really.
Manny, we've heard some of the plans with Valdez is to hope to build him into a top prize fighting featherweight like Morales and Barrera. He's definitely a top prize fighter, but do you think he's approaching or at the level that those guys were at in terms of?
Oh man, we got some big shoes to fill, man. And we got to stay grounded, man. We got to stay humble, man, and we leave that up to the public, up to the media, and you guys decide if he's there or not. We just got to keep working. We got to keep pushing forward.
Did you find it suspicious or dubious they wouldn't do a second-day weigh-in?
Absolutely. Are you kidding me?
I mean,
come on.
Why wasn't that enforced?
Are you kidding me? I have no idea. I don't have anything to do with that. I mean,
Todd,
I wish I knew.
Do you know why the second-day weigh-in wasn't enforced?
Enforced.
Well,
the IBF is the only organization that officially does a second day.
Right, but a lot of times when a fighter doesn't make weight, it is actually protocol to say, wait, let's try to work something out to make it fair. I think there was a legitimate reason why Qigg didn't make weight. But I've seen a lot of fights where they say, okay, if you don't make weight, you do a second-day weigh-in.
Well, listen, I think that the agreement that they had, obviously they asked for a second-day weigh-in. Qigg refused to do that. And I think rather than sit here and say, point fingers at people, I think you give credit to the people that got jump in the ring, to Oscar and his team, that say, listen, we're going to give this guy, we're going to take him on. He wants to cut some corners and have an unfair advantage. If that's what you want to say, we want to fight. And you know, you tip your hat to the guys that take credit, and you know, put all the BS aside and go to be a fighter.
All right.
So I can't answer that for you.
How much did this fight going down have to do with Oscar wanting it? Did you guys try and talk him out of it, and it was him at the end of it, or how'd that go about?
You know what? Again, this decision was made by his manager, his father, Oscar. But at the end of the day, it was Oscar's call.
I mean, I think when you talk about Oscar Valdez, I mean, listen, we all see fighters, right? We all see fighters, right? And we get emotionally involved, and Manny's next to him and everything. And as much as he tells Oscar, don't stay in the pocket, the kid loves to stay in the pocket. So it's in his DNA. He wants to be a fighter. So anybody telling him something that you think is the rational thing to do, which is make him have a second-day weigh-in, or not take the fight, or whatever it is, it's the same deaf ears that he gets when he says, don't pull straight back, don't go to the ropes, don't do those things. He's a warrior. That's in his DNA.
Maddie,
You mentioned that Oscar has been in, plenty of wars. These last few fights with Cervania, and the one before that. You as a trainer, what would you recommend? Would you pretty much rest him for the rest of the year?
We'll wait and see what type of result we receive from the doctors. But styles make fights, man. Styles make fights. If you put Oscar in with Marriaga, you're gonna get fireworks. With Hennessy Cervania, studying the tape, you're gonna get fireworks.
Put him in with me, he'll put off fireworks.
And then again with Scott Quigg, you could put him in with Scott Quigg. Come on, it was a given. You all knew you were gonna get fireworks. I don't think anybody was wrong about the fight. Scott Quigg is a warrior. He comes forward and he comes to fight. Now, on the other hand, Oscar, I think Oscar he proved that he's a more complete fighter. He proved that he can bang, he can box, he can make you miss, he can make you pay. He did a lot of good, positive things tonight, considering the fight.
What Manny's saying is you can see, which is wonderful, when you see a young kid mature over the body of work. And we saw in the Marriaga fight where he was still young, and then you saw in this where he was learning some stuff, and all that fight and the Cervania fight made him be able to conquer what he had to do tonight. If he didn't have those fights, he probably couldn't have conquered what he did.
I was just about to tell you that. I was just about to mention that right now. If Oscar doesn't have the Marriaga fight and the Cervania fight, maybe Oscar wouldn't have gone past 6, 7, 8 rounds.
Right.
But it was due to those fights that Oscar was able to go 12 rounds the way he did today. These type of, sometimes, everybody likes to see knockouts. But what Oscar has to understand, prior to these last 3 fights, Oscar was used to knocking everybody out. Oscar, you're not going to knock everybody out, Oscar. You got to learn to go rounds. It's so valuable to go into deep waters and go 12 rounds, because at the end of the day, that's what those fights, that's what they got us here. If it wasn't, thank you, if it wasn't for those fights, as a promoter, I got to thank him, because if it wasn't for those fights, Oscar doesn't go the 12 rounds the way he did tonight. And I mean, every fight.
And also to see, the last 3 rounds where he comes on, right? That's the maturity, right? A lot of times you see the young kids fade at the end, but he started coming on in the last 3 rounds and, went through adversity.
On that point, Manny, maybe did you tell him to come out and win the 9th? Because he came out hard in the 9th. He came back very hard in the 9th.
Yes,
so him,
those are the championship rounds,
you
man.
win that round, you won the fight.
Those are the championship rounds. You're going into the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th round. We all understand those are the championship rounds. Those are, that's when you show what you're made of.
Hey, Todd,
it's a given.
You guys have hosted plenty of cards here. Where does this rank at?
The wettest.
Obviously.
I mean, listen. There's something about this building. There really is something about the building. As somebody that puts on events and wants to, give the fight fans great events, you also want environmentally to be terrific. And all week I'm sitting on my phone looking at this weather, and I'm like, come on, be wrong for once, right? Why does it say 100% chance of rain on Saturday, right? So I think the memory of this is, it was a pretty unique environment. It was pretty unique to feel the rain coming down, to see it, and to see everybody in ponchos in the crowd. It was kind of special. And once again, you had a great show. And our matchmakers put on a terrific show. And every fighter knows when he walks through that tunnel, this building, for some reason, if it's Bradley and Provodnikov or Alvarado and Rios, the walls are special here. And these kids give it, and it was great. Like I said too, I get a text from from Matthew Macklin, who's calling it for Scott. I get a text from him, and he says, I look forward to the fight. And I said, well, it's going to be like a pitch, not a ring. That's what it felt like out there.
Is Scott in the hospital with the nose?
No, he's in the change room. He's fine. Yeah, it's just like no, the doctors signed him off.
So pushed it to the side.
Yeah, they'll have to reset the nose. So
he's definitely broken.
Yeah.
What's the injury?
Listen, just in camp he had a bit of a problem with his foot.
What is the problem?
I don't know. I don't know.
Could you use the mic, Eddie?
It maybe a stress fracture, but it was nothing that was going to keep him out of the fight. He had to adapt his training, that was all.
At least it wasn't a toe.
No, it wasn't a toe. Yeah, damn right. Yeah. But
You like that one? Was it a stress fracture?
Yeah.
Which foot?
Right foot.
Right foot stress fracture. Is that why you attribute that to the weight loss now?
Yeah, I mean, he couldn't do certain things for a small period. He could still train. He could still spar. It wasn't that it was going to keep him out of the fight, but he just had to adapt. But there is no one more professional than Scott Quigg at making weight, at training, at everything. And it devastated him that he couldn't make the weight because he got so much criticism back home. Because British fans are a little bit like that. They love to jump on you when you've done something wrong. And I just hope tonight they watch that performance and give him the respect that he deserves, because he apologised for not making the weight. It was very unprofessional and it was very out of character, Scott Quigg. But he backed it up with a performance that he went above and beyond the call of duty.
Eddie, why didn't he do a second day weigh-in to even out the score? Because a lot of times when a guy doesn't make weight, they say, you know what, all right, like, there may have been a legitimate reason. But I've also seen other situations where you do a morning of weigh-in to balance the scales. Like your guy was a welterweight today. Is that really a fair fight?
No, well, he wasn't a welterweight tonight.
142.2.
No, you don't have a welterweight tonight. There's no one in a weight class that's the same weight tonight. That's ridiculous.
But your guy was 142.
Yeah, but he weighs 140 every time he fights. So he was £2 over.
Is that when he makes weight? Because one guy
of
makes.
course it is.
So you're saying that you think that Oscar Valdez had an easier time with what he had to do, stretching himself out the last couple pounds of the toughest?
Yeah, hold on, Steve. Our boy had to go for a camp with a stress fracture in his foot trying to make weight. He was in a terrible physical condition on the scale trying to make weight. Trust me, it was no benefit to him having that camp that he had and stripping himself down to try and make weight yesterday.
So Eddie, you'll be consistent. The next time one of your fighters has a guy that doesn't make weight, you'll say, you know what, we don't need to have a morning of the weight.
Every situation is different. And my job is...
Yeah, your situation... Sure, because here's the thing. The guy has a broken jaw. It was a rough fight. I congratulate both guys. I like Sky. But I do think it's a little bit of an imbalance when one guy makes weight, right? One guy doesn't. Your guy didn't come close. But that's the other thing. Yeah. So now when you weigh in again, if one guy has to kind of
Steve, you need to speak to the commission and maybe get some rules in place. The situation is, we were asked to weigh in on Saturday. Scott Quigg said, I'm not doing it.
Okay.
Right, listen, do I think that's right or wrong? I don't think it was wrong of Top Rank or Valdez's team to request it. It's very normal to request a second day weigh-in in that instance. Scott Quigg said, you know what? I've had the worst camp going. I've stripped myself down to make this weight. To be honest with you, if the fight's off, the fight's off.
Right. Well, last thing, I don't want to hijack this whole thing. So would you have had a problem if the Espinoza camp or... Well, okay, you're right.
No, go on, I like this. I like this.
If Valdez would have said, you know what, okay, you don't want to do it, walked away. Would you have been okay with that? Would you have understood their reasoning if that was the decision?
Having known what they probably knew, I would have been very surprised if they walked away from the fight.
Okay, fair enough.
Having known the camp, because they knew the camp was Scott Quigg, and they knew that he wasn't in the best shape he could possibly be, and they knew that he was struggling at the weight all night and all day yesterday. So it wasn't like, but just believe me on one thing, it wasn't like Scott Quigg woke up and said, oh, you know what, I'm not going to make the weight, I won't try, because I witnessed him try, and it wasn't pretty. So he's a very stubborn individual. I don't necessarily agree with him refusing a second day weigh-in, and I honestly believe that if he would have not been through what he went through in camp, he would have done the second day weigh-in. But it was a situation where he said, listen, I've had enough. I've done everything I can to be here and to try and make the weight, and I'm not going for it, trying to hold my weight and doing it.
Okay, when did Scott break his nose?
I believe it was like the 6th round, 6th, 7th round, something like that. I mean, he had a great round in the 5th round, where he hurt Valdez badly, and I was, and then he got cut, and it set him back a little bit. But Valdez, I was hoping and praying and expecting Valdez to weaken down the stretch, but he didn't. And both guys showed unbelievable heart. It was a brilliant fight.
Eddie, why do you think Valdez was the superior fighter tonight?
Well, so many different reasons. Footwork, footwork, jab, body shots were incredible. I said to Scott Quigg in there just now, how badly hurt were you to the body? And he said, once. I said, are you sure? Because it hurt me every time. Sitting there. Brilliant shot selection, great engine. He boxed off the back foot for most of the fight, and again, moved so much in the fight. And to keep going at that rate with a broken jaw. I mean, don't forget, all right, Scott Quigg had a broken nose. Valdez had a broken jaw. And by the way, Scott Quigg broke his jaw against Carl Frampton in the 3rd round, in their fight. So these guys, both guys aren't human. But I think Valdez showed that he's an excellent fighter. And how many times do you see Oscar Valdez in a bad fight? You don't. Was it 118, 110? I had it 116, 112, something like that. You had it 150. Yeah, you had it 115, 113. I had it. Yeah, but you're a controversial judge. I mean, I've never seen you have a good scorecard. 116. I mean, Scott knows he lost the fight with me. Yeah, no, I gave Scott 4 rounds, maybe 5.
So with him being able to withstand those body shots and everything, like Steve was saying, do you think that the weight did help him?
Honestly, right, the weight is a load of bullshit. He was 2.5. We would have preferred that he was fit and healthy and made the weight well. Not, you know, and he's a bit heavier than he'd like to be in the ring. So it wasn't a plan. I read some rubbish. It was saying, oh, do you think he's coming heavy deliberately? The only reason we took this fight was to try and win a world title. And people say, oh, do you reckon he should come in deliberately? You're like, what would be the point of that? You don't want to come in heavy. He's never been heavy. He's a 122 pounder, moving to 126. He's not even a big featherweight. It was a disaster for him to be overweight. And he was too heavy tonight, but no one has a perfect camp. Despite what people say, everybody has injuries in camp. I'm sure Valdez hasn't probably had niggles and injuries in his camp. But you go through it, they both did. And it was a fair fight, and the better man won.
Do these fights, like Luke Campbell losing that tough fight to Linares and then Quigg tonight, does that deter you at all from continuing to come to the United States?
No, I mean, I actually thought the Campbell-Linares fight was a draw. But tonight, the right man won. But nothing deters me. It encourages me, because they're both great fights. The thing is, the good news now is, and we have to put pressure on the fighters and the managers and the advisors to get them to take fights like tonight. Because when Carl Moretti phoned me about Scott Quigg, I couldn't believe they asked. Like, you didn't have to fight Scott Quigg, and I asked for a lot of money, and they gave it to him. So they could have got someone a lot easier and a lot cheaper. But they're trying to put on great fights, and they've got it right tonight, and it's a big win for boxing, and a big win for Top Rank in ESPN. Same thing that we've got to try and do, but it's not just, we need the help of the promoters, the managers and the advisors and the fighters to make sure that the fighters are willing to step up and understand that losing is never the end of the world. If Scott Quigg would have boxed tonight against someone no one's ever heard of, and he won a unanimous decision, his stock would have just flatlined. He lost to Oscar Valdez, and his stock rose. American television would probably like Scott Quigg back in a fight. Britain said, wow, Scott Quigg's great to watch, so he'll come again. You mustn't be afraid of losing, but if you're good enough, you won't lose. But we have to keep pushing the boundaries and make sure that these fighters are in tough fights, because the only one that gets punished if they're not is the promoters, because we get moaned at.
Eddie, where do you want to see Quigg, Scott, go from here after what happened?
Hospital.
Well, in terms of the future, do you want him to stay at 126? Or?
Yeah, he's fine at 126. I mean, I know obviously he missed the weight, but he shouldn't move up to super featherweight. He was a super bantamweight world champion who moved to featherweight, and that's where he should stay. It's a very difficult division with a lot of elite fighters. Scott Quigg's a world-class fighter, but he boxed an elite-level fighter tonight. It was too good for him. So can he win a world title? Yes. Who against is another story. You know, I believe he can beat the likes of Lee Selby and Josh Warrington, who are fighting for the IBF world title. You know, yeah, the WBC title's vacant. Bantamweight. I'm losing my marbles here. Featherweight, you've got a great world champion at the WBC. But, you know, I think that Scott Quigg can be a world champion, but in a division where there's such outstanding fighters, sometimes you can't beat him. And he wasn't good enough to beat Oscar Valdez tonight. Could have boxed a slightly cuter fight. Wouldn't have got as much praise. But you know, he wasn't good enough for Oscar Valdez tonight.
You heard Eddie Hearn talk about the fight. He spoke for Scott Quigg tonight. He's in the back getting his nose set. He couldn't come out and talk to us, but he put on a hell of a fight, and I think Scott Quigg represented himself well.